Good morning. How's everyone doing today? 14. Oh, yay. Just pick a spot. Does not matter as long as you can see the screen. We're going to be moving around today anyway. How's everybody doing today? Pretty good? Dave, that would be a spot where you cannot see the screen. Alright, I guess. Alright, let's put our phones away, computers away, you won't need them today. Get ready for class. You will need a writing utensil, so make sure you have one of those. Don't worry, we're not taking another test.
I better pass.
Phones, computers away. You will not need them today. All right. I should. I agree. All right. What am I going to ask? What did we do yesterday? We watched a little bit of the movie. Yes. What else did we do? What lesson did we go over yesterday? Bloody Sunday. Okay, Bloody Sunday, which was a part of what? The march. Good. A march.
For the right to vote.
A march for the right to vote. A voting rights march. Where did they march from and where did they march to? Selma to Montgomery. Good. Very, very good. The Selma to Montgomery March for Voting Rights. That is what we went over yesterday. Good. What did the Selma March to Montgomery eventually lead to?
Voting rights.
Yes.
Civil rights.
I'm here. Close. I was hearing it. The Voting Rights Act of 1965. And so, if it was the Voting Rights Act of 1965, what year was it passed and what year did they march?
1965.
1965. Very good. Very clever, Julian. Okay, Mario, just find a seat. Even though you're tardy. Okay. Find a seat. We're talking about what we went over yesterday. Yes, so it was in 65. And so today we are going to be talking about another march in the civil rights movement, except we're going to rewind the clock back a little bit from 1965 to 1963. Does anybody know what other march happened during the civil rights movement? The March on Washington. Very good. Very, very good. The March on Washington. So if the march from Selma to Montgomery was for voting rights, then the March on Washington, their main idea that they were looking for is jobs and freedom. They were marching for jobs and freedom. They wanted equality in the workplace. They wanted freedom. Make sense? Okay. So instead of talking about all of March on Washington today, we're going to be zeroing in on one specific aspect of the March on Washington, more specifically a speech given by one Martin Luther King Jr. Does anybody know what speech that might be? I have a dream speech. Good. One of the most famous speeches in all of American history, if not the most important famous speech in all of American history. So we are going to be talking about that. Background information on the March on Washington. Like I said, they marched in 1963. They were marching for jobs and freedom. And they marched on Washington. They marched on the Capitol. Over 200,000 people participated in this march. And they were marching on the Capitol. When they got there, there was a lot of speeches given. One of them being John Lewis, who we've talked about. Another one being Martin Luther King Jr. And so what I'm passing out right now is a copy, the full text of that speech. That's what I'm handing out right now. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to dive into this speech a little bit, kind of analyze it. What is this speech, a primary or secondary source? Primary source, good. So we're going to be talking about and analyzing this primary source. Most specifically, we're going to be analyzing the three main themes of the speech. And those themes are freedom, justice, and brotherhood and sisterhood. What is it?
Freedom, justice, brotherhood, and sisterhood.
Good. Freedom, justice, and brotherhood and sisterhood. And so what we're going to do is I'm actually going to play a video of Martin Luther King giving this speech. And we are going to follow along on the transcript that I handed out on the text. And what I want you to do is I want you to be thinking about those three things: freedom, justice, brotherhood, and sisterhood, while we are listening, watching, and reading the speech. Okay? And if you want to, it'll help, I promise, with our activity after we're done with that. If you find those keywords in the speech, you can underline where it talks about freedom, justice, and brotherhood and sisterhood. You can make notes in the margins, because after we're done watching the speech, we're going to divide up into groups, and you're going to answer some questions over those three specific themes. And so it'll make it easier on you to answer those questions if you already know where in the speech it talks about that. Does that make sense? Everybody know what we're doing? Any questions? All right. I will start that speech then. So this is them marching. Pause. I'm having projector issues. I don't know if it's on.
It looks like it's on. It may take a minute here.
At the very beginning of the video, they're singing, they are marching, and they're just getting to the Capitol, which is where Martin Luther King will be giving his speech. And you'll see that if I can ever get this projector to work.
You can hit it again. I don't. There it goes. Sorry.
All right. It turned off somehow in between last period and this period. I wasn't ready for it. You three, am I going to have to separate you three before? In 3 seconds. All right, that's fine. All right, now we're ready. Got it all working. In order to take notes, you have to be looking at the side that has the print on it, not the back that's blank.
At this time, I have the honor to present to you the moral leader of our nation. I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize the shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. And the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They were signing a promissory note which every American was to fall have. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great cost of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is parallel with our destiny. They have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our body is heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the city. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities. Knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the word of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children be able to sing with new meaning, my country tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring, and if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the protected hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the hiking Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last!
All right. What do we think of that speech?
Really long.
Kind of boring.
Really long, kind of boring.
Motivational, inspirational.
Motivational and inspirational.
Moving.
Moving. Did you guys agree with what he was saying? Not agree with what he was saying? Yeah? Who said boring? Gabe. I have a question for you then, Gabe. What do you think would have been more boring? If we had watched him give the speech, or if I had just handed you the speech and asked you just to read it? What do you think would have been more boring?
I would have finished faster if I would have read it.
You would have finished faster if you read it, okay? But what would have been more boring?
Reading it, I think reading it would be more boring.
Reading it would probably be more boring?
Yeah.
Okay, so why then, other than it being more interesting, why did I show it to you?
Oh.
You can see how it was like.
So you can see what it was like? Okay. How do you think Martin Luther King, Martin Luther's a different guy. How do you think Martin Luther King affected the people that he was giving the speech to? Say again?
By his phone.
His tone of voice, okay. Do you think they were stirred up and excited, or do you think that they were bored listening to this guy talk? They were probably stirred up and excited, right? That's why I wanted to show it to you instead of just have you read it. Because Martin Luther King is a known good speaker and a powerful speaker, and he gets the crowd into what he's talking about, okay? He is, we've talked about this before, but he's a Christian, and he's actually a Christian pastor. Does anybody know what a pastor is? Yeah, what is it?
And teaches the Bible.
Someone that teaches the Bible, yeah, kind of. It's somebody who, in a Christian church, they go up and they give sermons, is what it's called, or speeches. They preach to you, right? And so they might have a few notes on what they're going to say, but they mostly just speak from the heart, and they speak from what they think God is trying to tell them when they're talking about God. And so, did anybody notice at the beginning of the speech, Martin Luther King kind of was looking down every once in a while, checking his notes, checking his speech to make sure he was saying the right thing. But then, later on in the speech, particularly in the I Have a Dream section, was anybody looking at him?
Oh yeah, he stuttered.
He stuttered a little bit, right? But did he keep looking down when he was on that part? No, right? He was just talking from the heart, talking about his dream and what he believed, what he wanted for America, right? And so he was starting to get, not only did he stop looking down, but he was starting to get more into it. He was starting to use his hands a little more, moving up and down the tone of his voice, right? And so that's why I wanted to show it to you as opposed to just have you read it, because a lot of the reason that people listened to Martin Luther King and followed him, and he was a big leader in the civil rights movement because he was such a good speaker and so good at giving speeches. Does that make sense? Did everybody find some good information on freedom, justice, and brotherhood and sisterhood? Yes? Good. I'm sure that he had some notes, like, I'm guessing that the first half of his speech he hadn't written out verbatim, but the second half of the speech, and definitely the I Have a Dream speech, he maybe had a few notes like, talk about my dream, or talk about letting freedom ring, or something like that, and then he just kind of went with it. Just kind of went off, yeah, exactly. Okay, so if you look around the room, you're going to notice that we have little pods. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pods and 3 themes. So what we're going to do is you're going to draw these fancy cards. And I have sheets here. There are blue sheets, and there are pink sheets, and then there are also orange sheets, and this is what you're going to write on. But I'm going to put the blue sheets around, or I'm going to put all of them around the room, one for each pod. And then I'm going to have you draw cards. Some of the cards have a blue backing to them. Some of the cards have a reddish pink backing to them. If you draw a blue card, what color do you think you're going to go to? Blue. If you draw a reddish pink card, what color do you think you're going to go to? Pink, right? Red or pink. Now, the cards obviously also have suits. So, if you have a heart, you're going to go to the freedom paper. If you have a diamond, you're going to go to the justice paper. And if you have a club, you're going to go to the brotherhood, sisterhood paper. So, if I draw a red heart, where am I going to go? The freedom, okay. What color? Red. So where is the red freedom one? It's that one, right? So if I have a red 2, I'm going to head over there. Does that make sense? Somebody know what we're doing? Okay, so I'm going to go around. You're going to pick a card. I'm not doing a magic trick. It's going to tell you what group you're in. Some people are going to have 3 people in their group. Some people are just going to have 2 people in their group because we have an odd number of people. Whoa. That's not okay. And if I hear it again, we're going to have issues, okay? What did I just say? Who just said it? No one. It's a very serious decision. What card are you going to get? Brandon, pick a card. Relax, the 3 of you. Okay, so if everybody would please move to your groups. Again, some people have 3, some people will just have 2. Find your color, find your theme.
Yeah.
Find your color, find your theme. So Brandon, you're blue and you are a diamond, so that's going to be justice. So find the blue justice paper. Right here.
Okay, what are you?
What color do you have? Blue and a heart, so you're freedom. You are a red heart, so you're going to go to the red freedom over here.
Ooh. Brotherhood.
Wait.
What's going on here?
What was it?
Oh, you're red. You're red too.
Ow.
Back in the car.
Oh.
The back of the card is the color that you go into.
Unless they were right here.
Brandon's still missing it. Who has a blue? What do you got, Brandon? Who has a blue diamond? Nora?
Wait, what? No. Oh,
Blue diamond.
I don't think I did.
All right. Color's back for it. What color's back for you?
So
Blue diamond. You're over here.
Hey, you don't got my consent.
All right. So what you're going to do is you are going to answer the question. I'm going to give you some time to answer your question on your theme. And then after the time is done, we'll see if we need more time. If we need more time, we can do that. And then we're going to rotate this way.
As a group?
As a group, you're going to take your orange sheet with you, or yellow, or whatever color it is. We're going to rotate this way. If you are blue, you're going to stay with blue. If you are pink or red, you're going to stay with pink/red. So you guys will go where next? Here, to the next pink one. You guys will go where next?
Blue.
Blue to here. You guys are going where? Pink, but which one? Over here. You guys are going where? What color are they? What color are you? So you're gonna go where? Blue one, two. We're going clockwise, like this. You guys are gonna go where? Here. You guys are going where? Right over there. Good. Does everybody know where they're going? All right. I'm gonna put 7 minutes on the clock. You have 7 minutes to discuss and answer the question.
Do we write it down
Yes,
on the paper?
on the orange paper, and make sure you write which theme you have above where you answer the question.
So is that paper ours? Like we can take it with us?
Yes,
Okay.
you take the orange paper with you when you move. I should be hearing discussion because what?
Trying to read.
I'm sorry, but when we start, I should be hearing discussion because we should be talking about the themes. All right, 7 minutes on the clock.
Speaks not only of preserving justice, but also for the First, what does he mean by brotherhood? Is the goal of the brotherhood rooted in the American dream of life, liberty, and justice, or is it rooted in the tradition of justice,
Same thing.
and the glory of the Lord?
I know. Yeah.
You wanna write all that
I'm
down?
writing what we like.
I didn't. At least I did it.
It's the first one. It's
Is it the same one?
Not
The
on there.
goal is
No, I know that's
rooted in the American dream of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Somewhere.
Because he was also talking about like Jewish people.
What is it?
Upholding the law. How about
Oh my God.
equality, right? Is that just?
First question.
Just, right, yeah, and right in there.
They are equal.
No, right? So we're just talking about justice.
Talking about like brothers and sisters.
Absolutely, you guys are on the right track. Good job. Aaron,
Blah, blah, blah.
hello.
We slack.
I'm going to put you in a group you want, you just got it.
All faces to the
He's a
land.
brother.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna put you with Chris.
Harmony.
We will be able. Write down one of them.
No, but then.
Oh, it's just recording stuff. And then don't do anything in the attendance portion.
You can see. I already did it in class. So I did it in my last day class. I wanted to be done, but I'm never gonna do it in grade.
What?
Well, I did it.
I'm
Well,
the first part still.
Make sure we're still at least
Okay,
discussing,
okay,
okay?
I
okay.
tried to, she's like.
Okay. Discuss it.
So, you can't read that scene in 3 minutes.
Make sure you write down what they're saying in your answer as well.
Okay. What do you want me to put?
So I believe that.
Okay, what do you want?
Okay, no, I got it. That's a quote.
Okay, wait, you see what I had down? Okay, but do you agree or you don't agree?
We watched this.
That's something that you guys say.
Chris,
Oh, you gotta do
sit again on my desk.
Can I get one real quick?
Discussing is probably not gonna be enough.
But
Wait,
That's a
no,
really good
you
idea to
don't-
start.
You
Just
write
elaborate.
a part of it.
Flesh
and
them out a
you
little
put
bit.
it's right there. You see it?
This one?
Yeah.
I'm
Or
sorry.
we can do that at different groups. So I can write it.
Okay, so what do I put?
I want to do it.
We need.
We are free. that one book.
That's a pretty good answer. Something.
Don't worry.
I'm not really slow writer.
You're right next to me, like, so you're getting away. I'm like,
These are good quotes, but what does he mean by them?
let me see, like,
I appreciate your quotes from
let me see.
the text, but explain them a little bit, elaborate. What does he mean by this quote?
Sorry.
So much of a G time. I don't know about this, like, yeah, I didn't write that, miss. Tony did.
And then after that, I said,
You don't agree with him?
I wrote that. My handwriting.
Or maybe even which one is more important to justice? Rights or law?
Well, we were like, what the? You didn't even get it either.
He does hit on all of these in his speech. And then is there something else?
Stupid cards, bro.
I'm waiting. Oh,
So
I'll
in
wait.
this one, Martin Luther talks about all the rights, all these things. So how does he talk about
Just
justice?
like this part. No, right? The king, and also we have something else, right?
The king.
And then we'll put something else.
The king, Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
He's calling the king.
That's his
You
last.
only put king, you didn't put the.
I put
Is it that
Dr.
one?
King.
Is it this one now?
Oh, well, it's an other one.
No, where am I starting from?
Yeah.
Well,
Either
King.
who's writing next? Not it.
Just put Dr. King.
What do you guys got so far?
That.
Well, I'm gonna read it later. Tell me what it is. Discuss.
Oh.
What'd you write down?
About brotherhood.
This is a long
Means
one.
that I'm out of the color of your skin.
Someone died over there in the ambulance. Hopefully
This is- this is a senior
hopefully
center.
they'll be okay.
Yeah, I was like, it doesn't.
So, hopefully they're okay. So what are they talking about? Brotherhood and sisterhood?
But everyone,
Okay.
I think I'm already ready.
that's
Dr.
what you
King.
mean by it.
That's not.
So who does he want to be brothers and sisters? Also, in this last question, make sure we answer the last question.
Yeah, got it.
I know.
This is the first one.
What?
This is one.
Is the American dream?
Yeah, 'cause
Why?
he talks about other religions coming together, not just only Christians.
Raise your hand if your group needs 1 or 2 more minutes. All right, we're gonna do 2 more minutes.
Where did
You're on
you
the
talk
cards.
about? Where did you start talking about brothers?
When he lost the cards, Cody?
If your group did not raise your hand, then you can elaborate on the answers that you already have.
Wait, I thought this one.
Play with them.
What just be brothers?
2021.
I think I'm mine. I read the- I like the one for Dr. King's goal.
I'm gonna put that there.
Oh, you didn't finish. Divided with divided by the.
That's not a curry, that's a.
You left out the middle.
Take our
Be able to freely without being discriminated against, judged for, and be right.
Take your guys' cards.
Let me answer.
Randy vended Miss Richmond's cards?
I think this will be.
No, Randy.
Oh.
My goodness.
Used to play cards. Charles, you played sports in high school?
He did track. It was really
You played
good.
basketball? How do you know?
That's what Nicholas got. So he was good in track. So Mr. Harrel, would you rather be here or in track?
What?
Would you rather be here or in track?
Did you run track in college?
Yes. What do you mean would I rather be here?
Like, what did you rather be like running?
Right now?
Yeah.
This very second?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Because I love teaching.
That's a weird question.
Let me see it.
Look.
Let me play with it.
All right, discuss for 20 more seconds while you're here. 20 seconds, discuss.
Mr. Carroll, probably a beast at her.
What was it called?
Discuss for 20 seconds. You have to just recap. Recap what you wrote.
Wrote that brotherhood and sisterhood is related.
No, when you refer to brotherhood and sisterhood, then he relates that black and white.
Okay.
Yeah, created equal, not by the skin color.
We are going to rotate. Again, we're rotating this way. Clockwise. Make sure you stay with the same color. If you're blue, you're going to blue. If you're pink, you're going to pink.
What's your what the?
All right. 7 minutes on the clock.
I couldn't even feel it.
Randy, stay in your group. We're watching movie month. Really? We're doing this today. Why? Because we're learning. We're learning about one of the most famous speeches in all of American history. I see. Can you name another speech?
Yeah.
That one can be second. Make sure we're answering this question now. So what do we think? What does he mean by brotherhood and sisterhood? Everybody.
Is it a good one?
Are they different?
I swear, this is.
Okay. What does he mean by
And I.
equality? Because I don't think they had color. Color TV. If they did, it was expensive. So like comedy camera.
Wait, do you get good tips?
I remember it being like so long.
Nah, I wasn't on.
All right, discuss brotherhood and sisterhood. You guys are starting down the train. Just elaborate. Talk to each other about it. You guys, including Randy, are you copying yours?
We're including Randy.
Are they?
Dude, bro.
You spill again. You spilled over there earlier too.
That is not
All day.
You said ISS. Don't worry, Mr. Carroll.
I swear.
Discuss freedom instead of spilling water on my face.
Bro, Joey, you spilled water over here. You spilled water over here.
All right, focus. Come on, you guys. You said some stuff already. I just need you to write it down. And then keep thinking about it. Keep talking about it. Remember, the yellow sheet is what I'm collecting. So you can underline your stuff all you want, but I'm collecting the yellow sheet. So all your ideas have to be on the yellow sheet.
Okay. You have to get rid of racial injustice to strengthen our brotherhood and sisterhood.
All of them. Because it hits on all, and then maybe talk about which one is most important. Also, when you're filling this out, make sure you label which answer goes with which theme on your paper. For example,
So you're not taking these?
no, I'm not gonna collect the speech. I am collecting the yellow sheet.
That sounded so weird.
Oh. You're talking about discrimination or what?
Because getting
That's what we're doing.
injustice, bad luck will strengthen.
Did I put the word miss?
Just call me miss.
You needed 2 extra minutes.
Yeah, but make sure you put it
Just
in.
this much.
Oh, to be
Reading?
So it's talking about not consider.
It's not so like that.
Second question. Is the goal of life, liberty, and the pursuit of is the goal of brotherhood rooted in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Or is it rooted in the Christian Messianic vision or just the Christian vision? The glory of the Lord shall be revealed in all flesh. So do you think he's talking about it in terms of Christianity? Because remember, he's a Christian pastor, Martin Luther King is, right? So is he talking about in terms of Christianity? Is he talking about in terms of America? Is he talking about in terms of the world? Is he talking about in terms of all of these? What do you think? So YouTube will watch the speech. What do you think? Everybody flip to the end of the speech. There's a specific quote that I'm looking for, or not that I'm looking for you to write down, but that will help with this. It's in the last paragraph. Consider the last paragraph. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes. Phones away, please. If I see it again, it's going to go on my desk. I'm going to do 2 more minutes. If you think you're finished, just elaborate a little more. For those who aren't finished, you have 2 more minutes.
Oh, I think it comes to class.
Is it saying like the
goal?
Like to when?
Yes, rooted.
Let's say when the good happens, we all like see it together.
Rooted. Which one do you want, the Christian or the American?
Ask me.
It's about Christian.
You know what I didn't try? I talked about freedom in Martin Luther King's speech.
I think it's a high jump there.
Can
you spell out?
Wow.
Just spell it.
Alright.
It's a high jump.
Focus. After class. When I wipe down desks, you can ask me.
You go first. We're done though. Dude, Tony, this is the last time.
LAR.
Talk about it more. You have another minute left.
Remember the. Oh,
You guys go.
Right.
Segregated there in the first 2 seconds.
What is justice? What is justice? You can't do
Hey, what was it? Huh? Hey, miss, when did he write this speech? When did he give this speech?
1963.
Why are you exposing
I'm gonna 63. So it's still take a while?
Hmm?
No, he doesn't read.
I remember saying that.
I don't know why, but no, she actually went this week. Like we truly not.
I used to be 65
And
and
then she actually every now and then,
Yeah, there's still more.
like it has to be really.
This didn't work.
Actually.
Yes.
So, well, after you're done.
I thought this was like the final step.
So what is your?
I thought like this was it and then they passed the law or something.
For the check.
And what's the next
What are they
one?
talking about?
It was that one.
And so what he says up here is when he introduces it, is since we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. The check that he wants to cash is, they have been paying, in a sense, paying money, not actual money, for their
That's what it
services.
is.
They've been paying
It is so
for,
annoying. That's what you do.
being discriminated against. Right now, they're coming to
Oh, like,
capital to cash the check to say, all right, we paid for this. It's time to end this. Does that make sense?
There you go. That's what I was meant to say.
Like, cash it in. We paid for this. We were slaves. Did all this. Now it's time for us to. Yes. Yes, exactly. Does that make sense? All right. Rotate. Third and final theme. Clockwise. Blue to blue. Pink to pink. That's the red thing over here. Say again. Let's talk about. All right, 7 minutes on the clock. Discuss.
You're right, bro.
How is this related to?
Oh, stupid.
Another paragraph? Oh, yeah, I know. That's the last page. This is our hope. Copy all of them.
So. So, what does he mean by justice in each of these things? Okay? Or does he mean justice in none of these things and something else entirely? Does that make sense?
It's like all of this is like all bad and
Hey, am I right or are you right?
Did you get the vaccine?
I don't know, didn't I? I'll talk about it later, but I'm in like a medical study, so I don't know if I got a placebo or the vaccine.
Did you hear about that Johnson thing?
I did, yep. I don't think, I mean, if it's, I don't wanna say if it's only 6 people, but 6 out of 6 million, things are bound to happen. There are side effects.
The Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah.
And make sure you label which theme you're answering.
Freedom and equality. There is something that I must say.
Huh? Oh, 5%. Yeah. No, I haven't, but yeah, I know. I'm not supposed to have that, but I don't even think they pay attention to it. Yeah.
I didn't say, I stopped myself.
Yo.
No, I didn't. I was like,
But I know. Especially back then. But if there's like
No, I was gonna say that backwards. And I was like, no, I said
it worse.
Don't say anything, don't say anything.
No, I didn't.
All right, let's focus. Focus back up.
This, I underlined it, but I did not say the complete word.
Let's focus. All right.
I just know damn well.
Let's be mature.
No.
Let's be juniors in high school about this.
Yeah.
Discuss this. Keep discussing. One more
What do
about
you want to add? I never knew about the word.
they wanted freedom. What does he mean by freedom?
Okay.
What is the freedom that they want? Equality. Okay, what else? That's what equality means. Okay, so at the beginning, very first line, he says, "I'm happy to join with you today. What will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation." So how, talk about, how is this March on Washington the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation? Even more even than the Revolutionary War maybe in that British. How is this maybe even more important? And then, when it talks about, you guys know the song "My Country 'Tis of Thee"? That song, and he quotes a bunch of different lines from it. Let freedom ring, right? Why does he use this song? In terms of America, how does he talk about freedom? Make sense? All right, talk about it. Both of them. Let's give you two more ideas.
Well, actually, I was. We're about to go through it.
It's probably hard to do it on Facebook. I guess people don't probably sit down often, right?
Today.
So after civil rights, we're going to talk about the Vietnam War, and then you will be in the unit now.
What is
That's after you scored,
Yeah, I don't want to be your friend anymore.
When I first got to 10, I went to a guy and he told me I have 5%. He told me if I wanted to be 2%.
Got some good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, sure. But then like later on, like 5 minutes later, when we put it in the shop, he told me that he didn't. So then I told him if I was like, I have 2% more. Yeah, I know. I mean, pops said, I'll care too much about it. Or they just don't pay attention.
Okay, he does. Everybody listen. Listen up. Bring it back to Mr. Harrel. Does anybody need time to finish in their group?
No, I think so.
No? You guys need a little bit more time? 30 seconds?
No.
Like a minute? All right, 1 minute. You have exactly 60 seconds.
You want free Starbucks already?
Oh, no.
All right. Those who are done, recap what you talked about in your group. All three, recap it for the next minute, next 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Guys, you know that brotherhood and brotherhood is just really equal.
Recap.
Got the colors and
Good. You guys recapping? Recap. Recap. You guys recapping? Recap.
I didn't even say the R.
Yes, you did.
I stopped it. I was like, and that's what I
No.
We're recapping.
Not about that. That's over and done.
Okay.
Yeah, let's be adults.
Okay.
5,000 Florida. I played in Florida. And then me and my dad drove back. Yeah. We went and played. My uncle lives like cars over there are cheap.
Okay.
But it's almost the same thing because you're
Is
gonna.
everybody
pay
finished
taxes.
recapping? Everybody recap? All right. One group. Tell me
132.
about the theme of freedom. What'd you write down? Am I gonna have to pick a group? No, everybody has an answer for me because everybody wrote it down and talked about it. Equality. How so? Why does freedom mean equality? What do they want to be free from? Being treated different. Okay, what else? Discrimination. What else? Segregation, right? Oppression, right? African Americans during the 50s, during the 60s, before then, and even to an extent now, were being oppressed, right? And so they want to be free from that oppression, right? Let freedom ring, Dr. King kept saying, let freedom ring, right? They want to be free from that oppression where everybody can live together equally. Make sense? All right. Number 2, justice. What do they mean by justice? What does he mean? How does the theme of justice fit into the I Have a Dream speech? Do I need to pick on somebody? This group. How does he talk about justice?
By justice, it's like that everything is like fair and equal for everybody.
Fair and equal for everybody?
Like, it should be like between everybody.
Okay, again with the equality, right? Justice. He wants justice for the things that have been happening to African Americans throughout all of history, right? And what will that justice look like? Mario kind of said it.
Being equal to whites.
Freedom, what?
Being equal to whites.
Being equal. African Americans and white people and other minorities being equal, right? That is the justice that he's looking for. And then finally, brotherhood and sisterhood. This group, what do you guys have for brotherhood and sisterhood? What does he mean by brotherhood and sisterhood? We're all brothers and sisters, right? White people and black people are brothers and sisters. There is a quote right at the end where he says, Jews and Gentiles, Catholics and Protestants, black and white, right? We're all brothers and sisters. We're all part of the same human race. We're all in this together, right? And so that is what he is searching for. So are these 3 themes related? Yes, right? Martin Luther King's main goal and the entire goal of the civil rights movement is for equal rights, is for the end of discrimination, the end of oppression, and everything like that, right? And so this is what he's asking for in these 3 themes. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Yes, you can keep the speech. I'm going to come around and pick up the yellow sheets, and then I'm going to wipe down desks.
What you run your track?
I jumped. I long and triple jump.
I told you.
And then in college, I did the heptathlon and the decathlon. It's where you do 7 events indoors and 10 events outdoors, and you get a score for all of them. So there's some jumping, some running, some throwing, all that kind of stuff. Yep, go there.
you're not.
Thank you.
Okay, what are you doing? Finally does
Tomorrow we will finish the movie. We are going to finish or get close to finishing The Butler tomorrow. Everybody come excited to watch The Butler tomorrow.
That's so light.
My teacher's gonna watch this, so I hope that.
Oh, well.
You're really gonna watch the whole thing? Yes. I get graded based off of that. You guys gonna tank my grade.
You should stop recording.
They'll send you home. They'll send you home. They'll come and